Rees-Mogg.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Further to that point of order, the right honourable gentleman, the Leader of the Opposition, said about 10 minutes ago in conclusion, I fear as time has passed, he may be in danger of inadvertently having misled the House. And I thought you might want to take the opportunity to set this right.
Now, some people may think that the honourable gentleman is fastidious and others may conclude that he's pedantic. You pay your money and you take your choice. But there is no disorder here, although if people persist in raising what they know not to be points of order, that would itself be disorderly. And I know that the honourable gentleman of all people wouldn't want to stray into such misdemeanour. Mr. Jeremy Corbyn.
There is nothing disorderly, but I must say that I am saddened to see the honourable gentleman, the member for North East Somerset, holding, until he just put it away in his pocket, his mobile telephone. I have long been conscious that the honourable member possesses and indeed uses such a mobile phone. However, it does conflict very, very, very heavily with my image of the honourable gentleman as the embodiment of tradition and as someone who thinks that the 17th century is indecently recent. Mr. Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Mr. Speaker, regrettably, I was explaining why I was delayed for an appointment at 2 o'clock, so I would have the pleasure of being in the chamber to listen to this important, urgent question. So my apologies for being unduly modern. I hope, Mr. Speaker, you will follow in my footsteps of antiquity as a general rule.
People like the member for, what his name now, member for Somerset, you know, Moggy, he said, we should have a second...
What dare? The honourable gentleman shouldn't refer to a colleague in that way. I think the person he has in mind is the honourable gentleman, the member for North East Somerset. Yes. Yeah, well, that's the proper way to refer to it. Continue.
Yeah, I'm glad. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm glad I prompted you because I couldn't remember the North East, so I inadvertently said Moggy. I'm sorry about that.
I would say on the Conservative side, amongst the new members, Jacob Rees-Mogg, who is the son of the recently deceased former editor of the Times, William Rees-Mogg. Jacob Rees-Mogg is a character. I mean, an extraordinary character. He's what you would call, if you're familiar with this term in Britain, a young fogey. He sort of dresses in a very old-fashioned way, often with a waistcoat, and he's always got his handkerchief in the right place, and you know, he's very trad in every way, immensely courteous, and Jacob, I think, almost takes the rise out of himself. He's got a habit of getting up and asking questions in a manner that would have been done 50 years ago. Is my right honourable friend aware that it invariably falls to this great party of ours to rescue the country from the ravages of debt and despair which it's been the historic failing of the socialists to deliver to us? You know, that's very much a sort of Jacob Rees-Mogg type question. And Jacob is an unusual character, but he's a good parliamentarian. And actually, although I think the Labour Party regard him as a curious sort of figure who sort of wandered into the House from a different century, and, you know, I would say he's not disliked. Not disliked.
Now, Mr. Speaker, my right honourable friend, the member for Buckingham, as he now is, has a reputation for being a moderniser. This is a word I use with some caution. But in spite of my own prejudices, it is important that this House looks beyond its own confines to the country at large, and what he has done in terms of education has been very important, to bring schools into this place and to make that more available. Though there is some hope, which I hope I'm not indiscreet in telling you, that his son Oliver, when the portrait of Mr. Speaker was unveiled, took one look at it and said, "Daddy, why aren't you wearing a wig?" Mr. Speaker gave an answer that, had it come from a minister, would not, I think, have been deemed satisfactory. So young Oliver said, "I think, Daddy, you should wear a wig." I must confess I am with Mr. Speaker's son on this, but I think my chances of success are limited. But the key virtue of the right honourable gentleman is that he is impartial in this House, but he is a partisan for the House of Commons. So in here we are all equal and judged by him equally and fairly. but outside he defends our rights, our traditions and our liberties, and that is how it should be.
The Honourable Gentleman for North East Somerset has just used a noun which I hazard a guess has probably not been used on any other occasion in this Parliament, or if it has, only by the Honourable Gentleman.
Though my right honourable friend the Prime Minister has said he views prorogation as an archaic mechanism and does not wish to see archaic mechanisms used, as I am bound... As I am now bound by collective responsibility, that is now also my view.
There are, of course, Greek antecedents of the word archaic, a concept and fact with which the leader himself will be closely familiar. However, I think I can say without fear of contradiction and for the avoidance of doubt that the word archaic, as spelt now, originated in the 19th century and in France. So, by the standards of the Leader of the House, it is distressingly modern, and it is also, and I simply say this as a matter of fact, of foreign origin. But he will have his own views about that matter and others. If more widely he thinks that a manual on this matter for the future would be of use, that would be a matter that I would be happy to discuss with him over a cup or mug of traditional tea.